What's up everyone? Welcome to my channel. My name is Kyle. Today we're going to take a look at some of the potential pros and potential cons of buying new construction here in the Central Alberta and Red Deer area. So let's get into the good and the bad. Let's do it. All right, let's get right into it. Let's take a look at one of the biggest things you have to consider when buying a pre-construction home. So most of the time, especially in Red Deer, there's only a couple neighborhoods right now that really have a lot of new construction taking place. That is Evergreen and Laredo. You really have to make sure that you love one of these areas because you don't have a lot to pick from. Now, Laredo is located in the southeast section of Red Deer, which is arguably one of the most popular areas of the city to live in. This neighborhood is fantastic. So unless you have some weird preferences or whatever it is, if you do buy in this neighborhood, you're probably gonna love it. It's gonna be tough to find any reason not to like this neighborhood. It's got a lot of young families. There's lots of parks, playgrounds, walking trails. It's in a super safe area of the city. People love this area, and you're not gonna have any buyer's remorse here 9 times out of 10. Now the other neighborhood is called Evergreen. If we go a little bit farther north, it's kind of in the northeastern section of the south end of Red Deer. This neighborhood is interesting in that it's kind of like separated from the rest of the city. There's about a kilometer distance from the rest of Red Deer. It's kind of got that secluded feel, super nice neighborhood, really close to golf courses and amenities. So again, you're probably not gonna have any buyer's remorse living in this area either, but super important to explore the areas because you can't, again, we talked about this many times before, you can't just buy based on the home. You have to love the area. This is the biggest reason why people regret buying where they did, is because they didn't fall in love with the area first and they got distracted by that shiny kitchen and just the home itself.
I moved here because I love kitchens,
but now I'm starting to regret that decision.
Super important to love the area first. Now, it's also super important to check into the builder's reputation. Most of the builders in the Red Deer area, they are pretty good. There's some high volume builders and some low volume builders. Some would argue that it's better to go with a low volume builder because you get a little bit more customer support and you get your questions answered a lot quicker and things done a lot quicker. Now, this isn't true for all of them. There's some really good high volume builders as well. I will say that when I built my home in Vanier East, I used a high volume builder. And even though the workmanship in the house seemed to be decent enough, it was pretty good, I was a little bit frustrated with the lack of customer support. And if I called someone, it took a long time for them to get back to me. I was actually, and this might be the developer's fault, I was supposed to get one tree in the front of my yard. And I lived there for 5 years, and when I left, I still didn't get that damn tree. So it's super important to dive into the reputation of the builders. And this brings me to my next point before we get into the cons. It's a no-brainer that you should use realtor representation, even a new build. So the commissions, you're literally paying nothing to use a realtor to represent you when you're buying a new build home. And this isn't a shameless plug, you guys know me by now, but the commissions are built into that purchase price by the builder already, so it doesn't cost you anything. And if you decide not to use representation, it's not like the builder's like, oh, here, you can have these commissions back. No, that's not the way it works. The builder pockets that, puts it back into their business. So it costs you $0 to use a realtor. Make sure you're getting representation. The realtor can advise you on things through the process, inspections, the contract, builder reputation. So super, super important not to miss this.
I am calling a realtor right now.
Hello, Kyle. Thank God it's you.
All right, let's get into the cons of buying new construction properties. First one, and this is one of the biggest ones for most people, is the open-ended timeline and possession dates. Now, these can vary a little bit. So builders have spec homes and then they have custom builds that you're building from scratch. Now, if you're buying a spec home, it's a little bit easier to narrow down that time frame. You might not get a specific date when it comes to possession dates, but you can narrow it down pretty quickly because these homes are just about built already. A lot of times they're 3/4 done. They just need to do the exterior and a couple things within the interior. Now, things are already pre-designed, things are already picked out, so you're not going to be able to pick out finishings like cabinets and countertops and paint and different things like that. However, the good news is that on these spec homes is that most of the finishings are based on popular picks, the most common popular picks that other people would choose anyways. So it's usually a pretty safe bet. There is a little bit more predictability if you are considering purchasing a spec home, but when we run into some timeline issues, even more so is when we're starting to look at building from scratch. So a lot of the times, depends where you're living, but in the Red Deer area, area, you could be 8 to 12 months, depending on the builder. And there can be delays even from that time. A lot of the times you'll see written into the contract that this home will be completed from December until spring of next year. So there is a lot of kind of ambiguity when it comes to possession dates. And this can be a little bit frustrating, especially for a couple reasons. If you're a renter and you need to give a specific possession date as to when you're going to be moving out, it's tough to line those up. Or more importantly, if you have a home to sell, it's tough to, if your build is 8 to 10 months out or 10 to 12 months out, that is a long ways down the road. You're not going to list your home today. You're going to wait roughly 90 days before that potential possession date of your new build occurs. And then you're going to have to cross your fingers and hope that your home sells within that time frame. And this is where you need to have backup plans. So if you list your home and your home sells before your new build is complete, what are you going to do? Are you going to get a short-term rental? Are you going to stay with friends and family? What is your backup plan? Super important to have a backup plan.
Richard, I'm going to need your watch. I've got a plan. Yikes.
And just as a reminder, I am a licensed realtor here in the province, so if you do need help making the move, make sure you take a screenshot and use this information popping up on the screen. Get a hold of me any you want, phone, text, or email, doesn't matter. We'd love to hear from you. Now, this open-ended timeline brings me into my next con of buying new construction, and that's the increased financial risk. Now, we talked about spec homes. They can be a little more predictable, not as much of risk, but if you're building from scratch, that open-ended timeline where you're looking anywhere from 8 months to 15 months, 18 months, that leaves a lot of potential things that could come up in that meantime. Specifically, there's a lot of risk when it comes to deposits. So within that timeline of building that home, you're putting anywhere from 5% to 20% down on the purchase price of that new construction home. Now, if the time rolls around when it's time to complete on the home and something has changed, maybe you had some financial hardships, maybe you lost your job, there's a lot of things that can come into play. Maybe you went and you're having a midlife crisis and you bought a Lamborghini or you got hair plugs and now your financial situation has changed and you can't close on the home, you're not able to complete the sale. Now you've just forfeited all of that deposit money to the builder.
I have no more money coming anymore.
You wasted all our money.
Now, yes, you can lock in rates with builders for up to 12 months, but again, usually I would count on a delay. There's lots of delays that happen in new construction. If you go over that 12 months, what if the interest rate has gone up? Now you're going to have to requalify at the new interest rate. And with the interest rate environment over the last couple of years, that could be pretty significant. Now you compare this to the resale market where things are closing typically within 1 to 3 months, 30 to 90 days, short time frames, there's less of a chance of things going wrong. You locked on that pre-approval, it's good for 3 to 4 months. Things are just a lot less stressful and a lot easier. There's much less financial risk. So when you are buying a new construction home, you absolutely need to be sure that when it comes time to complete the home, to complete the sale, that you can close on the home. All right, let's quickly touch on con number 3 and let's just talk about taxes briefly. So in Alberta, no land transfer tax, no provincial sales tax. However, on new builds, you will be paying 5% GST. Now, a lot of the times the builder will have already rolled that into the purchase price, so you'll be paying it off through your monthly mortgage, but sometimes they don't always do that. So you definitely want to do some investigating when you are purchasing that new build. You want to determine whether the purchase price already includes the GST or whether you're paying 5% GST on top of that. So if it isn't included, just take the purchase price and add 5% to that, and that's what you're going to be paying. Now, on some lower priced homes, there is a GST rebate that you can be eligible for. It's 36% of the GST, so a portion of the GST. Now, 99.9% of the time, the builder is going to claim that rebate and then just reduce the purchase price of the new build itself. So don't be surprised when you see it written in the MLS that the GST rebate is back to the builder. But yes, there is 5% GST on all new builds, so definitely something to be aware of.
Taxes. Nobody wants to pay them anymore. Ah, I see.
All right, let's move along to the next con. Let's talk about some unexpected costs when you are purchasing a new build. Now, for starters, there's a lot of things that you might not realize that after you take possession that you're going to have to purchase. A lot of home builders, they supply appliances, but they don't supply a washer and dryer. So unless that can be negotiated in the contract, in a hot market, it might not be negotiated in because builders have the advantage in these sellers markets. But you could be expending $2,000 to $3,500 on a washer and dryer. Window coverings, these can get super expensive. Most of the time, builders will not provide window coverings for the home. Depending on your taste, these window coverings and blinds, they can really add up. And then we head outside and we talk about landscaping. So you might get the builder to do the front yard sod package, but you most likely will be responsible for doing the backyard sod package or whatever landscaping that you want back there. Most of the time as well, if you're living in a row townhouse, you might get, or a duplex or a semi-detached, you might get the divider fence that goes between the two properties, but the perimeter fencing will be another cost to you. So these costs can really add up. You're looking at anywhere from $10,000 to $20,000 extra. And it is a lot of work to do. And in these hot markets, and I always tell my clients this as well, builders aren't moving a whole lot on the price in sellers markets. So a lot of the times they have spec homes or similar homes built. So if they drop the price on one property, that means they're going to have to drop the price on all the other properties. And builders aren't willing to do that. So hopefully we can negotiate a few things in. We maybe get a backyard sod package or a washer and dryer. It all depends on the market and the builder, but we're going to try to get some of those things included into the contract. And just a final note on some of the cons when it comes to new construction is that you are living in an area where there's also going to be new construction occurring after you move in. So there can be lots of noise, construction noise. There can be lots of, trucks and workers driving around. There's lots of dust. I know when I moved into my house when I bought it, especially before we got the sod package in, man, there was just so much dust. I hated letting my dogs go in the backyard. It really was a pain in the ass. And a lot of times, not so much in the neighborhoods in Red Deer that we were talking about, but in these new communities where there is new construction, a lot of the amenities have not been built yet. So you might not have some immediate access to some of the amenities that might be there in the future. So a few things to consider when you are buying new construction. It is not all peaches and roses.
Are you looking to buy a house?
Well, it's not that easy.
All right, let's look at some of the pros of living in a new construction home. Number one, most obvious, you're living in a home that's never been lived in by anybody else. You don't have to worry about what's under that carpet, whether they're cats or dogs that have shit and pissed anywhere, or whatever else has gone on at the house, you never know. So it's super nice to know that you are the first owner. And if you're building from scratch, you can design that home the way you want it. You can pick out all your finishings. You can make the home the way you want it. So that is obviously the number one pro of buying new construction. Now let's talk about warranty. So in Alberta, any home built after 2014 requires a new home warranty. This is law now, and there's lots of really good things that come with this. So kind of break down the tiered system of the warranty here in the province. You get 10 years. Number one is kind of a bumper to bumper warranty. So anything that goes wrong with that home in the first year, you are covered, whether it's some simple things as the caulking has come off the backsplash, you're seeing drywall nail pops, the builder will come in and fix all of that stuff. You have 1 year to get all of that stuff fixed. And this is why I highly recommend that if you are pursuing a new build, you live in that house for maybe around 8 months. And at that 8-month mark, you get a property inspector to come in and do an inspection on the property, tell you everything that is wrong with the home, because there might be some things that you might not even be aware of. And when you go back to the builder, you can go and be like, look here, it's all on paper. This is what the inspector found. I want all this stuff fixed. That is a huge pro tip. So the first year is bumper to bumper warranty. Anything in the house, you have 2 years on all your distribution systems. So plumbing, electrical, HVAC, if you have an air conditioner, all that kind of stuff, any type of distribution system is covered. 5 years you have for the building envelope, so anything on the exterior, doors, windows, shingles, siding, and then you have 10 years on any structural or foundational stuff. So if there's something wrong with the trusses or load-bearing walls, this 10-year warranty is super nice, and it's also transferable. So if you're buying a resale home and it's not quite 10 years old yet, some of that warranty will be transferred to you as the new home buyer. Now let's talk about bidding wars in a super hot market. This is one of the nice things about new construction. If you are building from scratch, you can still go into bidding wars when it comes to spec homes. But if you are building from scratch, you don't have to worry about competing against other buyers and someone driving that price up. You always get that one buyer who's just willing to drive that price up no matter what it is, because they want the home. They're kind of like that guy when you're at work and you're in group training and he never shuts up and keeps asking questions, and everybody else just wants to get the hell out of there because you want to go eat lunch or you want to go home. That's that one buyer.
Can you please stop asking questions?
So if you are building from scratch, you're not going to end up in bidding wars, which is super nice. The worst that could happen is you might end up on a wait list. And again, in a super hot market, builders aren't willing to move much off their asking price. So if you're being difficult in negotiations or you don't want to pay what the builder wants, they're just going to move on to the next person on the wait list. Now there's many more pros of buying new construction. These are just some of the major ones. So I hope you guys really enjoyed the video. If you did, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, click the notification bell. And if you do have any questions, throw them in the comments below, or you can reach out to me using this email and phone number. It doesn't matter how you guys get a hold of me. I am a licensed realtor in the province, so love helping you guys out and making the move. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you guys next week. Cheers.